Hey listeners, welcome to Straight Wife Trans Life. I'm Lisa, and today my spouse shares an update about her dad, who has not been supportive about her transition. But is there hope? In this case, there might be. As for me, I am cautiously optimistic. More cautious because I am the one who read the very nasty 6-page letter that her dad sent, and I made sure my spouse didn't see it. We agreed that she wouldn't see it. So, for anyone thinking of sending a letter when they are hurt or angry or bitter, don't do it. You can't take that back. Write it and burn it if you must, but do not send it. All right, let's get to the update. Well, hello, spouse.
Hello.
So, as a background for listeners, your dad hasn't supported your transition. He lives in Mexico and went as far as to send, by way of DHL, which required your signature, a 6-page hate-filled letter to you. So the good news is that I read the letter and you didn't, but communication has been limited because that's just not a healthy relationship. So now for the update. I would say that your dad has turned a corner, and for me, I'm not ready to invite him to Thanksgiving yet. There is definitely a lot of work to be done. So would you like to share about how your dad is seeing a therapist and your recent communication with him, and then maybe just a little background of how it's been going before the therapist?
So when I came out to my dad, I went through this lengthy process and came up with this long speech about how things were great, but this was the only thing changing. And his first reaction was like, I don't see why this change on your own will make any difference to me. I love you. You're my family, whatever. Followed next day by the opposite kind of reaction. And we had trouble communicating, and eventually on a conversation that he was on the background, it all went down, became an argument, and I didn't talk to my dad for more than a year now. And throughout this year, he has had to deal with his own feelings, and turns out has led to a bad physical reaction. He has been feeling sick for over a year now, and even when he was given all sorts of drugs and treatments and the most specialized specialists on the issues he was having, it always came down to, oh yeah, it's something that is happening in your head because you feel bad about something. So eventually he actually decided to talk to a therapist, as I suggested from the very beginning, but he did not want to listen. And it seems to be improving, according to my mom, I get all my updates from her. He has been more open. He has realized a bunch of things he has done over his life and married life that were negative, that most of us didn't enjoy, but he felt like he had the right to do, or that was the way to assert his, dominance or something, who knows. And one of these things is understanding that this situation of being transgender is out of my control. This is how I feel all the time. I have felt like this my whole life, and that I'm actually living a very happy life now. So recently there was a death in the family, and my mom had been hoping we talk since probably November, but I wasn't comfortable. We haven't quite reestablished the fact that I was hurt and offended, and this wasn't just gonna be cleared up or brushed off like, oh, nothing happened. So he sent me a few very heartfelt messages that made me feel like he is actually improving and feeling better and recognizing that I'm just trying to live my life. Yeah, so because of the family death, I ended up calling my dad just to give him my support and express my feelings. And yeah, it was easy. It wasn't surprising. He misgendered me only once and then corrected himself, and he continued on being nice. Yeah, it was very, very surprising.
How long was your conversation?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I thought it was going to be just a couple of minutes, and it turned into probably 15 minutes. And it was very mundane, him telling me about the things that happened at work and his regular life. And he never made any reference to my gender or how things were going with me. So it was nice. It felt almost normal.
And where do you think it's going to go from here?
Well, according to my mom, he keeps on going to therapy regularly and keeps on recognizing his previous behavior not being the best. I think he's gonna get better, and I hope we can get together sometime and not as far into the future. Ultimately, what I wanted when I came out was just to be told that I was gonna be loved the same as I was before, and I ran into the opposite situation. So I hope things at least restore in some way. I don't think our relationship is ever going to be the same, just by virtue that he thought he was dealing with a boy, and I don't know if he even knows how to deal with a daughter, but I have hope. He really tried his whole life to give us the best he could. He really tried. And yeah, I can see how he would feel destroyed, feeling like his life, work, and legacy and love would be completely lost for some dumb thing like this. So yep, I'm hopeful. Let's see where it goes. But I am open and slowly reestablishing the channels. I am not ready. I was never in my head comfortable with just like restoring completely everything like nothing happened. Like I am still recovering from the stress that I suffered 40 something years. Wondering what would happen and like fearing this. So yeah, I'm very hopeful.
It definitely is sort of a cultural thing for your dad, because my parents are both in their 80s and they've been a little bit more accepting, and your dad is in his late 70s, and I think it's just part of that sort of machismo Latin culture in a way. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think your parents have got like a 99% passing grade or some like really, really high grade, and my dad all the opposite. I think it's cultural. I mean, really nobody is born being homophobic or transphobic. It's something that you learn, and your culture and your environment promote it. Like my family is very or was very religious on their own way. Turns out in their older years, my parents became even more religious. And I think that's part of the issue here. He actually talked to a couple of priests when I came out to, I don't know, seek advice from somebody that would have some, I guess, moral authority. And one of them was really awful. They just told them all the ugly things you can see that are promoted about trans and gay people. And the other one just told them, like, oh, don't worry, it's your family. You're too old to worry about things like this. You may die any minute, so why are you concerned with hate? Yeah, a lot of it is cultural. And I hear like it comes also from my grandpa, who was even like, he was not educated. I think he went to like, I don't think he finished up elementary school. So, and very religious. So I think that like makes the sweet spot of lack of exposure and small mindedness. Plus, this is like 100 years ago or so when he grew up. So yeah, I don't blame him so much. I kind of blame my dad on not having the foresight of not following the pattern that he saw when he was growing up. He did that so much. My parents did so much the opposite of what was done to them, which I really appreciate. But in this case, they at least my dad couldn't see it that way for the longest time, and I am happy he's seeing the light. I'm really hopeful.
But I also think it's important for anyone who is, transgender or in the LGBTQ plus community to know that it's okay not to be in touch with your family if they are mistreating you.
Yes, this is something I discussed with my own therapist that I came to the conclusion of on my own. Well, the first thing is that one of the key things I did for preparing to come out was to really introspect and figure out what I was afraid of, why wouldn't I want to share this with my family, what would be the worst case scenario, stuff like that. And I got convinced that, I feel worse by not transitioning than just taking the plunge and dealing with the consequences. That was one of the things. And a lot of it was possible because you, my spouse, has been so incredibly supportive. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, and I had to work through my own thing too, but I'm in a group, and our group leader, who's fabulous, always says you can be upset, you can cry, you can be angry, but you can't be hateful or transphobic. Like that's not okay. And I'm with her. It's like you can go through your emotions, but this isn't about us. Like she always says, this isn't a choice. And it's not being transgender, being gay, it's not a choice.
Yes, it is not. Trust me, I would choose not to do any of this. The other thing that I was surprised to figure out myself and talk to my therapist about was that my parents are getting old. They are at the age that their friends and families are. Friends and family of their age are dying or have died already. And then I wondered, after that horrible interaction we had when we stopped talking, if my dad also was very sick, would I be okay going and being berated and insulted and exposing myself? And I thought, no, I would really want to better save a nice picture I had of my family growing up than exposing myself. And yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think you've handled all of this really well. And I think it's good that you had that space so that your dad could maybe sit in it for a little bit and come around to these better conclusions that he's coming around to.
Yeah, hopefully very positive.
Thank you for sharing this update with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.